This is the Richard and Judy Book Club. We're talking about our summer reads, all in exclusive association with W.H. Smith. Do you know what the fear index is? Well, we'll tell you in just a second when the author of that title talks to us. But before that, let me tell you that all the books, all the 10 books in the summer reads, have excellent extra content in the back. There's information on how to download the podcast that Judy and I make and the authors make, lots and lots of interviews with them. There's a Q&A on the paper page with all the authors, with Judy and I asking the questions and other things. It's all for free, but only if you get the book online here or go into W.H. Smith and buy one. Right, The Fear Index by Robert Harris. Just before we talk about it, clear this has been nagging at me for 20 odd years. You used to write for the Sunday Times, amongst other papers. Do I remember this rightly? Do we owe fatherland to the fact that Labour lost the 1992 election? Because I seem to remember reading your valedictory column in the Sunday Times when you were fuming that Labour had lost. And you basically said, to summarise it, the hell with a lot of you. I'm going away to write a novel. And you did. Is that kind of a parenthesis of truth?
There is an element of truth in that. In fact, the novel had already been finished by then. So I wasn't such a big mug as to give up the day job first.
Yes.
Yeah, but I did. I finished, my stint as a columnist just as The Fatherland came out.
And went into a new life as a novelist.
Yes, exactly, which was great to do, actually.
Yeah, and you hit the ground running. I mean, obviously Fatherland was amazing.
Yes.
We won't go through the whole sort of back index, but The Ghost, extraordinary. We all preferred the book to the film, didn't we? Much as we liked the film.
Oh, I loved the film. I thought Ewan McGregor was great, but I loved the book more.
Well, thank you.
Now, tell us what the Fear Index is first, and then we can get into the plot.
Well, the Fear Index literally is the Standard & Poor 500 Volatility Index, or VIX, and it measures implied volatility in the financial markets. That is, it's a kind of insurance hedging. If you think the stock market is going to crash, the more worried you are, the higher the VIX goes, which is why all the traders call it the Fear Index. So and the moment I came across it, I thought, well, that is a great title.
So
that's real, that's true.
Exists.
That's true.
It's real.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it's true. And, whenever the stock market crashes, if you just look carefully, you'll see the VIX. The people refer to the VIX has gone up 20 points today.
What is the VIX? I mean, how is it a thing, an entity that you can see?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, it's based on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and you can actually trade it, and in the novel, people, they make $1 billion trading the VIX. You can gamble on it.
Yeah.
The whole world financial market really is just some sophisticated casino. We civilians think it's must be more sophisticated than that, but it isn't really. It's just a lot of lads, mostly lads, betting.
Well, let's talk about your central character, Alex Hoffman, who is a legend. You take the whole concept of the Fear Index to the next level, and who knows, it might actually be the next level in years to come. He's worked for the CERN project, the Large Hadron Collider. He's a physicist, and he's developed this extraordinary software which collates news stories from all over the world, from news agencies, breaking stories, puts them together, processes them, and spews out a prediction as to what the Fear Index is going to be the next day, how the dealers and how the hedge fund traders are going to react to this amalgam of breaking news. Good news, bad news. And the predictions are astonishingly accurate.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I started... The genesis of the book was more than 10 years ago. I got interested in artificial intelligence, the idea that computers might be smarter than we are. And that seems to have been taken to the logical extremes in the financial markets, where there's a lot of what's called algorithmic trading. Algorithms predict our behavior. When you get phoned up and said, you're spending your credit card, you're buying something in it, and it's out of your normal assumed pattern of behavior. The bank calls you. That's an algorithm. You're no longer obeying the normal rules of how you behave.
But that's not Fred Smith looking at a piece of paper. That's the computer saying,
the computer.
Call them.
It's an algorithm which predicts behavior. Yeah. And they've imported this increasingly into the financial market so they can predict what we're all going to do and what the markets are going to do.
But is it foolproof?
By no means, no. In fact, it regularly causes calamities, but you can make a lot of money at it. And so, my central character is a physicist who used to be a scientist, kind of went to the dark side, as it were, and decided to use his skills to make money. And the book is set against an actual event, which was a kind of stock market collapse that happened in 2010, on the day of the general election in 2010. And so this sort of explains or purports to explain what happened behind the scenes. But I find all that fascinating. I think it's new territory for the thriller, the financial world.
I suppose AI, it's been discussed for a long time, but I suppose it really came to the public's attention in, 2001, A Space Odyssey with HAL?
Yes.
And it's you remember the HAL, the computer?
I said before that, Isaac Asimov.
Asimov, yeah. But I was thinking in terms of real, widespread popular culture, people who don't read, and HAL, of course, takes over the spacecraft and is plotting to kill the astronauts. Now, the book starts straight away with Alex's threat on his life. He's almost killed in an attack in his beautiful, sumptuous home in Geneva. And here's, I thought, the key to what might be going on here. Well, I'm not going to give it away because I could be wrong. He has an extremely sophisticated defence system in his house, an alarm system. No human being could possibly breach it, and yet somebody does. Somebody just walks in and belts him over the head. Are we looking towards AI with that happenstance?
Well, yes. I mean, I think, the book is set in Geneva. A lot of these hedge funds and financial guys have gone there to beat the tax system and regulation. And it's the home of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley. So, what's not to put together there? The notion of a guy who's created the perfect machine for calibrating fear and turning it into profit. And suddenly he wakes up at night and is being attacked in his own home. I wanted to write a kind of gothic thriller.
Yeah, really. And the other thing is that, he's obsessed with Charles Darwin, or at least with this incredibly expensive first edition thing he's got. And so there is that all the time. There is that that dualistic thing about what Charles Darwin talked about what being human means, and actually the artificial intelligence that he is developing.
As exemplified, all the chapters have a little quote, either from Darwin or from thinkers, all on the same theme. And I just opened it at random here, really. Chapter 13, page 251 of the paperback. And it opens with a Darwin quote, great one, from The Origin of Species, 1859. The extinction of species, and of whole groups of species, which has played so conspicuous a part in the history of the organic world, almost inevitably follows on the principle of natural selection, for old forms will be supplanted by new and improved forms.
But running through it is a thriller, and it's a very good thriller. It's a fantastic thriller.
Cops and robbers chasing and bashes over their head and threats, and we're talking about the backing on which it's set, but it's a good old-fashioned thriller, and it's in real time, and it's a heart-beating stuff. It's really well written.
It is. But is the feeling that from your point of view, Alex Hoffman and his ilk, they are aberrant. Yes.
Well, what I feel is that you wouldn't let nuclear physicists run amok creating a bomb in the middle of a populated town. It would be regulated by government. We have allowed Alex Hoffman and the ilk, the nuclear physicists, to run amok creating financial bombs, instruments, derivatives, the things that blew up the financial system in 2008. We did let them do that, and they're carrying on doing it.
Yeah.
And all the, so much of scientific knowledge now is going into the financial markets. You go to any Oxford, Cambridge, any university in this country, you will find the people recruiting the physicists and the mathematicians are hedge funds and financial institutions, and they are creating means of making profit that we do not understand, governments do not understand, and I think that this is it's a severe threat to all of us, and we've seen the consequences, and we will see them again, I fear. So the book, I hope, is a thriller, but I wanted to try and get inside this secret world and suggest what it is. I used to be a journalist.
Without giving anything away about the end. There is a reference at the end to Icarus, and who obviously flew too close to the sun, and that is, I think, perhaps sums up what you feel is happening at the moment.
Yeah, I do. I think that too much brains has gone into making money, and making money in a casino, not generating any real wealth like Henry Ford or whatever, but just playing numbers. And they only see, like geekish mathematicians and scientists, they only see the numbers on the screen. They don't see lives beyond the communities, individuals, and I think there's a fatal disconnect in our society, and that's what the book's about.
Couldn't agree with you more. 100%.
And it's all very frightening, actually.
And it's a fearful book, but a great read. Thank you very much indeed, Robert. It's a great read.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed reading it.
Thank you very much.
And read it in about 2 nights. It keeps you that tight. Anyway, The Fear Index, Robert Harris, and as I think you can gather from this interview, The Fear Index can be interpreted in a number of layered ways. Hope you enjoy it. Sure you will.